Hi, I'm Rebecca Balcarcel. Let's take a close look at Sonnet 116 by William Shakespeare. This is one of his most famous and one of my favorites. It starts out like this. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds. Now let's stop here and go back and piece this together. If we put the first sentence in modern word order, it would read like this. Let me not admit impediments to the marriage of true minds. So let me not, may I never allow this to happen. Or let me not may have a prayerful tone, as in, let me be a good person today. Let me not do this. But I think it has more of a declarative tone, almost as if the speaker is taking a vow. I will not admit impediments to the marriage of true minds. Now, what does admit impediments mean? Well, admit means to let in, like you may be admitted to a building, or an usher may admit you to a wedding ceremony. So I will not allow in impediments. Impediments are obstacles. So I will not allow in any obstacles to this marriage of true minds. Now it's worth noting that in the Anglican marriage ceremony, so if you were getting married in Shakespeare's time, there would be a priest at the front asking, do either of you know of an impediment that would prevent you from getting married? And it is a quite serious question, and the priest will say, upon your souls, do you know of any reason why you shouldn't be wed? Is there any impediment? And that word is used. So Shakespeare is speaking of marriage and is quite knowledgeable about the church custom of using this language. So this admit impediments echoes the marriage ceremony of the time period. All right, so I will not admit impediments to the marriage of true minds. Now, what is the marriage of true minds? Well, of course, it's just a marriage of people who are beautifully and deeply connected. But also the choice to have it be minds. It doesn't say hearts and it doesn't say bodies, mind. So one of the reasons I love this poem is that it does imply a mental connection between these two people, even a spiritual connection. So this is a deep relationship, a genuine relationship. Now let's also look at the word true. It's true minds. Well, true is, of course, truthful, but also faithful. And in Shakespeare's time, it also refers to straight, as in an arrow that might fly true, straight to the mark, to its target. So if these minds are true, it means that they are moral and also faithful to each other. Let's look at the next sentence. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. So when he says love is not love, at first we're confused. What? But what he means is that love is not true love if it changes when it finds change. When it finds change in the other person, or when conditions change, it will not change. Love is constant and eternal. So let's go on and look at the next section. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. I'm going to stop right there because now we've read 4 lines. This is the first quatrain, as it's called, 4-line section of the poem. And you might notice that we have some rhyme going on. Minds rhymes with finds, and then we have love that's supposed to rhyme with remove, but for us it doesn't exactly rhyme in our ears, but pronunciation does drift and change. So love and remove might very well have sounded the same to Shakespeare. In any case, they look like they rhyme on the page. That means there's a sight rhyme. It looks like it rhymes to your eyes, so it'll do. Now, besides this being the end of a quatrain, I need to spend some time with this language, or bends with the remover to remove. Remember I said that true meant straight in one of the meanings. Well, here we have bending. So now Shakespeare has created a contrast here. Bending is bad. We want to be true and straight. So he says love does not true love does not bend with the remover to remove. Now, who's the remover? Some, evil person is the remover. Well, the remover can be time. Time removes the bloom of youth physically, and time changes things. So love is not supposed to follow along if the remover takes away something like physical beauty. Love does not change in that case. Another meaning for bend can be to be bent to someone's will, to be going along with that person. So he's saying here that true love does not go along with the remover to remove. It doesn't get convinced to get on that bandwagon with the remover. Now, remover to remove. Remove in Shakespeare's time means to move to a different place. So let's say the tide is coming in and someone might say, oh, we need to remove to higher ground. We need to move, go to a new location. So it could also mean that love does not bend with the remover to remove. It doesn't go away. It will stay. It will be constant. It will be faithful. It will not remove to some new location. Now that makes a remover someone who does move away. So the remover may be a lover who has left, or an unfaithful lover who has moved to another, bed, for example, another heart maybe. The remover might be someone who has changed position. And true love does not go along with that. Now we're on the next line. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. This is fairly self-explanatory. Oh no, saying in contrast, real love is like this. It is an ever-fixed mark, meaning a permanent, unchanging, eternal mark. Now, what's a mark? We think of a mark on the wall or something, but for Shakespeare's time, a mark is a sea mark. So it's a landmark in the sea. It's a star or a lighthouse or something that can be seen from a ship, and by which the captain can determine the location of the ship. So love is now this ever-fixed mark, this fixed position that we can navigate from. The most typical kind of mark out in the sea will be either a star or a lighthouse. In fact, the beacon of the lighthouse will be the mark, and from that we can figure out where we are. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. So now the beacon is looking on tempests, which is storms, but it is never shaken. And indeed, a lighthouse is supposed to be very strong, stands up against all kinds of weather, provides guidance in the midst of storms or fog. Love is like that. Another meaning for looks on is not only to just see the storms, but to withstand. So the love can withstand the storms and never be shaken. Now, let's finish up this quatrain. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is a star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. This is a little trickier right here. This is still speaking of love. It is the star. So remember that the stars are fixed in the sky compared to the planets that seem to be moving against the backdrop of the fixed stars. Stars stay in one place, and love is like that. So it is a star to every wandering bark. Now, a bark is a boat. In Spanish, it's very easy to tell barco is boat. Now, the boat could be wandering, and this reminds me of that word bending. That bending and wandering, this is not good. We want straight and true. Love will guide that wandering bark. Love is like a star that the wandering boat can fix upon, like the North Star. By the North Star we can navigate. So love is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Now, whose refers to the star. This is the star whose worth's unknown. So the star's worth cannot be measured, it can't be quantified, and love is like that too. You cannot measure the value of love. Okay, so now what about the rest of the sentence that talks about the height? It says, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Now, this refers to calculating the altitude of a star and then, again, navigating from that location. So throughout this few lines, we've got references to boats and navigation and lighthouses and all of that. It's a theme. So although we can take a star's height, we still cannot put a price on it. That concludes the second quatrain. Let me refresh our memories. Speaking of love, he says, "Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken." You with me so far? All right, let's move on to the next set of lines. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. All right, so that's one sentence. Love's not time's fool. A fool, it refers to a jester. So love's not time's fool. That means love does not trail around after time, making jokes the way a jester does. In Shakespeare's time, the jester would go around behind the king, making jokes, mimicking the king even, to get people to laugh and to see the contrast between the silly fool and the regal, serious king. But love is not time's fool. Love is not playing that role in relationship to time, even though rosy lips and cheeks come within the compass of time. So rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Lots of sickle compass come. It's very nice. Some consonants there. So rosy lips and rosy cheeks will pass, will fade. And referring to it as a rose makes it temporary even more, because a rose is a plant that does indeed have a season of blooming and then die. So the rosy cheek, or the rosy lips rather, will fade, and time has a sickle. That's a curved blade that's used for cutting things down, and the usual image we have is that death is using a sickle or a scythe sometimes to cut down your life and cut you down, harvest you in a way. So time here has a bending sickle. Now remember, we had the word bend earlier. Now we have an echo of that here. And bending is always bad compared to the true, the straight, the true minds. So love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Compass here means within the reach of that sickle, that blade, in the area where the sickle is working. So love does not come within that, but the rosy cheeks do. So yes, certain things will pass away, physical beauty one of them, but love doesn't care. Love is not affected. Next sentence. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. So love does not change, alters not, with his brief hours and weeks. Now this his, it might be referring to time. So love does not change, even with times, brief hours and weeks. Who cares about hours and weeks? Love is eternal. Or his could refer to love. So love's brief hours and weeks. I don't like that meaning as much, but if it were intended, it would mean that love doesn't change with brief hours or weeks. And so that works too. But probably love alters not with time's brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. To bear it out means to stick it out or to endure. So we bear out problems till they get resolved. And here, love bears it out, endures all the way to the edge of doom. Now, doom typically would mean doomsday. And doomsday can be an apocalyptic kind of day, like an end of times judgment day, Or it can be the personal doomsday. There was a saying, something like, death's your doomsday. So it's a private doomsday. So love endures until the edge of death. And remember how Shakespeare referred to the marriage ceremony earlier with admits impediments that's used in the marriage ceremony? Well, also in the marriage ceremony, we have the line, until death do us part. So this is, love is enduring all the way to death, to the edge of doom. Or it may mean the edge of the grave, all the way to the edge of the grave. Love goes all the way there, which is intended to mean will not change throughout your entire life. All right, so now we've completed another quatrain, another set of 4 lines. Let me review. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. And now we have the final 2 lines that are rhymed. This is a rhymed couplet that, shuts the lid on the sonnet. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor man ever loved. So he says, if this is not true, well, then I never wrote a poem, and no person ever loved anybody. So it has to be true. This is a cute little logic to end with. But let me examine further with you. If this be error. Now this word error, this is a legal word in Shakespeare's time. So an error refers to something like a mistrial, that something occurred in the trial of a criminal or a civil case that would make us have to do it over again. So an error is a fairly serious word to use, and it might mean that if this whole poem were in error, and the word this refers to all the previous ideas and assertions. So if this be error, and upon me proved, that means if I'm proved wrong, and this is another legal term, isn't it? To proof is something we talk about in the courtroom. So we have error and we have proof, and there are a couple of other legal words. Admit impediments would fall under that. So there's a legal flavor to the whole poem, and that gives it a certain seriousness, how important this is, and how truthful we need to be, because this is taken seriously, almost as if it's a legal proceeding. So if this be error, and upon me proved, if I'm proved wrong, I never writ. So I never wrote. Now, we know he wrote because he wrote this poem, and of course we know he wrote lots of other things. But there's another flavor to this word writ. The usual phrase that included both the word writ and the word error was writ of error. So if you found out that some technicality was not observed in a courtroom, then you could file a writ of error. This is almost like a lawsuit saying this trial was not done correctly. So a writ of error will cause an entire trial to be done over again. So it's an important document. And to have the word writ very close to the word error is lots of fun, really, because Shakespeare can evoke that association and at the same time say what he wants to say, which is, if this is wrong, well, then I never wrote anything. And the last phrase, nor no man ever loved. And we could almost insert the word truly loved here. No man ever really fell in real love. If this preceding assertion that love is eternal, if that's not true, then nobody ever really loved anybody. Okay, so I hope you feel like you understand this poem more deeply. I sure do, because I did a lot of studying to bring all this information to you. So thanks for that opportunity, and I hope to see you in another video.